space stuff, you'll have people walking everywhere just like to get things, and it's like half your day can be spent like, you know, walking around like this. It's wise to have a rubber mat under the place, actually the work area. You should have a rubber mat more or less for people to stand on. That's very important because that rubber mat it mimics a little bit more of the natural earth, and there should be some give a little bit. You should not be on a solid surface as you work. It should really be more rubber mats, removable rubber mats that can be, so the whole place can be cleaned. You should have a sanitizing test kit, and the health department, if you are having a kitchen which is health code, if they ever come in, they'll look around and ask you where your sanitizing test kit is, and that's for testing that you have the right parts per million of Clorox in your water, buckets and that sort of thing.
Those are like the litmus paper, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we never clean, we never use our apron for wiping stuff down with, absolutely not. You have a self-closing door on the toilet. If you have if more than 19 seats, you have to supply a toilet.
Could you tell me the number per million?
Parts per million?
Yeah, parts per
It's
million.
50 parts per million for food contact surfaces, and it's 100 parts per million for non-food contact surfaces. That's the first is half an ounce per gallon, and the other is 1 ounce of Clorox per gallon. Hot water for washing, hand washing, it should be around about 115 degrees. It should be at a temperature just that you more or less can sort of keep your hands there okay, but it's a fairly hotter temperature. Water for manual sanitizing though is how much?
170.
170 degrees Fahrenheit. An employee toilet can be used by patrons if it doesn't go through the kitchen. You can't have your patrons walking through the kitchen to get to a bathroom. So that you could have a one toilet, providing that it's possible that it's set up in a way that your patrons can walk to get to the bathroom without having to go through any food prep area. Would it be all right to have a counter and have food here and have the customer over the food?
No.
Absolutely not. What do you have to have?
Glass.
Yeah, you have to have a sneeze guard. If you don't have a sneeze guard, what else can you do?
Cover it over.
Yes,
Glass.
you can cover it over. It can be covered. Okay, that's very important because the reason is that actually lots of stuff can actually end up contaminating the food. Yeah. Refrigeration units all should have what in them?
Temperature control.
Right, they should have thermometers, and they should be accurately calibrated. That's right. They all should be accurately calibrated and checked. Valerio checked mine this morning. Space behind equipment should be sufficient enough to permit cleaning. If you've got something that's 2 to 4 feet wide, it has to be at least 8 inches high underneath for cleaning.
What's that mean?
It means you don't want to get somebody down on their hands and knees and have to get a little broom and try to scrape out something, you know, when something goes back 4 feet. If it goes back 2 to 4 feet, at least has to be around about 8 inches high. So somebody can clean that and get a broom underneath it. If it's 4 feet, more than 4 feet, it has to be 12 inches high, 1 foot. And if it goes back 6 feet, or 6 feet wide, you have to have around about 18 inches of height underneath it, more or less, that you can get a broom to clean it.
About counter spaces.
I'm talking about equipment, everything. Everything in your kitchen should have the ability to be able to be removed and cleaned. A better kitchen's actually, in a work situation, are more removable, movable sorts of items that can be moved and cleaned, and you can clean behind and everything. In my mind, I feel, you know, cockroaches are like little turtles, you know, and they are just as much a right to live as everything else. So I'm very mindful. I personally can't kill a cockroach. I would allow the cockroach to be. But what do? I make sure everything is absolutely spotless and clean. The idea that you could completely get rid of cockroaches is untrue. I have people and they're just killing cockroaches all the time and they will never get rid of the cockroaches. But they're killing the cockroaches all the time. They may spend a day killing some cockroaches or something. But personally, I would imagine the person would be better off spending the time keeping everything spotless and clean.
Also, I heard if you squash the cockroach, it leaves behind some kind of smell that attracts more cockroaches.
Of course. Yes, it's unhygienic to squash a cockroach. It's also cruel.
Even if you keep it clean, they still come around.
Yes, they can do, that's correct. But the most important thing is your kitchen is spotless, because if you have flies, you will never have maggots on your kitchen sink. Flies are not the reason for maggots on your kitchen sink. So you can have all the flies in the world and you never will have any maggots if the kitchen sink is clean. What is the reason for maggots if maggots were there? It's not flies. What's the reason for maggots? Yes, a less than clean kitchen. Okay, so that's like the body. You know, it could roll around in bacteria, and so what? You could drink vials of typhoid, and it's not even gonna bat an eyelid. Like, no, not bother anything. There's actually an entrepreneur in England who has bet. I don't know what the sum is, but it's enormous. I'm not sure what it is now, but it's like something like £1 million or something. It's a lot to anyone who can actually jumpstart a condition in a healthy person. So I mean, you can get some bacteria and you can jumpstart it in a healthy person. So give me the research. I'll give you $1 million if you can show me a healthy person that we can actually jumpstart some disease in.
It might be difficult to find a healthy person.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. But the idea is that they never have been able to jumpstart any condition in a healthy person, actually.
Wow.
No. Okay. Refrigeration units have thermometers accurately calibrated. We talked about cleaning. So if you defrost something, what's an acceptable way to defrost this?
Is room temperature? Or
Yes, it could be left out in room temperature, but it might not be as good an idea. Okay, that's right. We could put it in a refrigerator and it could be defrosted in the fridge. Most of our stuff could be done this way, right, as LIFEFOOD chefs. But what else if you needed to, something was solid and it was frozen?
Under running water?
Under running water, yeah, under running water.
Cold or warm?
Warm running water. Okay.
So you can't do it in a pot of warm water, it has to be running?
If it's running, it's gonna wash away anything loose, and that's helpful.
Does it have to run continuous, or could you let it soak for a while and then?
You could do, but generally they say that it's better to like put it in a pot and actually have something run a little bit, you know,
Okay, right.
so the water is flowing, and it sort of agitates anything that's loose and causes that to be cleared away. So now, a couple of things in there. I think actually, Zach, do we have a few? How much more left? How much more time left? Okay, excellent. Because I have just a little bit of time here just to cover this about these organisms. So botulism. Has everybody heard of botulism? How way less than excellent botulism is. Botulism. The source of botulism is primarily from plants that actually have come from the soil more. Like what are some of these plants?
Onions.
Onions,
Turnips.
garlic, burdock,
Turnip,
turnips.
Parsnips.
sweet potato.
Turnip is not really a live food.
No?
A
No.
carrot is not really a live food either. But you could have a little turnip and a little carrot and you could still call it a live food dish, providing that, you know, some 85% of what you've used really is live food. It can
Does
still
this
be
full of
classified as a live
starch?
food
Why
dish.
is
Oh, it's starchy.
and
Parsnip is starch.
why
Yeah.
is that?
Potatoes.
It's a hybridized root vegetable.
It's
Like carrot,
hybridized,
yes.
as if it's just, you mean, well, so it's not natural really?
Yeah, it won't grow itself in nature.
How did it become,
Oh, I could teach you how it's possible to get some plant that looks, have some property. I could teach you how to do this. You could do
Where
it
did
over
it come
some
from?
generations of plants and things. What?
but people produced it, or they just like kind of stumbled upon it while?
Oh no, it was slowly produced
Mm.
to become a food.
Was it purposeful, or did they kind
Yeah,
of
purposefully
do it
produced, yeah. Purposefully produced.
Mm.
Eventually got to the place where it was an edible root.
Wow. What's it come from?
Potato?
Sweet potato, same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah. So anything that's come from the ground, if that was as in a live food dish, and that was left out for more than 2 hours, whoa, watch out, because there could be really some botulism there. If you put garlic in oil and then you leave the oil out, that's quite a strong possibility of botulism in that oil. What are some of the things that could happen to create more hazardous favourable conditions? We talked about food, we talked about acidity, temperature. We've had some questions about this and everybody said that we've talked about the temperature danger zone. What about time? We've talked about time too, haven't we? We've said that if something is, the longer that it is left at room temperature in the food danger zone, especially if it was broken, and the cell wall was broken in some way and it was prepared a little bit, it's really a hazardous sort of a situation. The FATOM, so we have temperature and time, and O stands for? Oxygen. So oxygen needs to be present for things to actually grow. If something was sealed or lost its seal, oxygen can have been present, oxidization can have occurred. And the M stands for? Moisture. If a cracker has what percentage moisture? 20%. Is it okay?
Yes.
Yes. If it's above 20% moisture, it's not okay. It
How do
actually.
you know that?
Well, I'm going to show you what a cracker is that's around about 20% moisture.
Oh, okay.
So you'll be able to have a look at this, get a sense of it. Okay. So the onset time for botulism is between about 8 and 22 hours after having consumed that food. People can have come down with something perhaps. You know yourself that if ever you would have consumed a food from somewhere and the next day you really didn't feel too good, it's possible you can have thought, gee, it could have been something I actually ate. But it's not an easy thing necessarily to pin something down like that, right? Because a lot of these things, you know, you eat and then it sort of happens maybe several days later. Several days later, bam, you're feeling really way less than excellent because it's taken a little bit of time for that organism to have actually cultured in this incredible place here that is a great place for culturing stuff. This is one of the greatest places for culturing stuff in here. Botulism, Clostridium, mostly the source of that is soil. Staphylococcal aureus, you can really get that from grains and things, and baked goods and stuff. And mostly the contaminating source is from humans. The onset for that is between about 1 and 6 hours.